Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day. We have some breaking news from Palantir Technologies that was just recently announced, and is why we're seeing the price in the after hours that is really starting to climb back up above the $60 level. And that is that they have just recently came out with a statement that they will be transferring their Class A listing of shares from the New York Stock Exchange over to the NASDAQ. We're going to be talking about why this move particularly could have happened and why this is bullish for Palantir, especially for the rest of the year here, when we are starting to see some uncertainty rise with what's the future of the market. More red in the broader market today, but Palantir is doing a great job holding and staying resilient. Now, if you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button. Help us get on our road to 18,000 subscribers. We're getting closer. Thank you guys so much for watching. Of course, not a financial advisor. I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, pop it up on the screen here. Palantir, right now in the after hours in the overnight trading session on Robinhood, had hit 61, almost 62, sitting right now at 60.87. Where Palantir actually closed on the day was down about 2.5% at 59.18 right here. Now, the news is that Palantir is really rising after the bell, like I said, because they are going to transfer the listing of its Class A common stock from the New York Stock Exchange to the NASDAQ. And people could be wondering on the sidelines, why is this bullish? Particularly, Palantir is trying to meet the eligibility requirements of the NASDAQ 100 index upon transferring. Now, this is expected to begin trading on the actual NASDAQ listed company on November 26th, and the stock is going to continue to trade under PLTR, typical Palantir right here, but upon transferring, Palantir, like I mentioned before, does anticipate meeting the eligibility requirements of the NASDAQ 100 index. Now, if you ever heard of the QQQ, that is a NASDAQ large traded tech ETF that is basically getting exposure to the top 100 stocks within the NASDAQ. If you look at Investico QQQ Trust on the NASDAQ, they've been doing incredibly well. This is tracking and very heavily tech focused. If Palantir can get into this 100 index right here, that is where we're going to see a lot of buying pressure and even more exposure and momentum for Palantir overall, and more people understanding and becoming more aware of what Palantir is. Remember, just a few months ago, we had Palantir that was included into the S&P 500. Now, if they can get exposure to this very highly popular, sought-after ETF index, the NASDAQ 100 index, that is where we could start to see even more momentum and passive buying pressure being applied to Palantir. Now, we know that it's already been one of the hottest stocks this year, so up about 245% year to date. Palantir sitting at these record highs, having a little bit of a pullback here. I saw that. I thought that was going to continue. But now, right now, what we're seeing with Palantir, where it's actually trading, we could see some changes. It's actually changing right here at 61.23. So the fact that we do have that coming, a lot of things are changing for Palantir in terms of the short term. I thought we were possibly going to see a little bit of a correction cascade, considering the broader market is starting to cool off a little bit after we do have the results from the election. You can see the NASDAQ down here about 0.6%, S&P 500, Dow Jones likewise. But before we get too far, remember, Palantir also yesterday established and further extended that partnership with Rio Tinto, working on mining, getting into that industry, and just being involved into multiple different niches. We know how AIP has already been incredibly, a big accelerator for Palantir. So a lot of you guys already just know this news, but if you missed yesterday's video, they also did extend their partnership with Rio Tinto. But getting now here with the goal of getting included into the NASDAQ 100, we're going to be keeping this up to date. On November 26th here, will they actually be all fully transferred over? It looks like that's expected to happen. And when that trading begins, we'll make sure to keep you guys 100% posted. Now, what's actually happening in the market today, we see with the post-election rally starting to sputter. Now, not just that, I think, of course, we did have a big rally into the market. Last week was incredibly bullish. One thing that is signaling, I think, a little bit of a cool off in the market, and this is why I thought Palantir was going to kind of follow this direction before we got the news of what Palantir is doing, is that the Fed chair right here signals caution on rate cuts. Now, we see U.S. stocks that slid on Thursday like we saw before in Webull, but specifically why that we're starting to see more uncertainty coming into the market is because after the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, he said in Dallas that the central bank didn't need to be in a hurry to slash rates. And that was bringing some uncertainty right here. And basically what he was saying is that the strength that we are currently seeing in the economy, which is very strong, we see a lot of resilience in the economy, is giving us the ability to approach our decisions carefully, hinting possibly that we could not see a 25 basis point cut in December. Reflected a decline actually in the odds of probability for that quarter rate cut, sliding to about 62%. That's down from 82% earlier in the day. So after the Powell comes out here, the Fed comes out here and makes these remarks, basically saying, hey, there's a lot of resilience in the economy, which I mean, we've seen, so it's not, too uncertain, but it's just the fact that this is now actually hitting reality. Wall Street is starting to decrease their probability of those actual rate cuts, and that's where we're going to see possible more selling pressure continuing on into tomorrow's trading session. And what they're calling here, we're also seeing Tesla that has lost a little bit of steam. A lot of the stocks did have a big influx. So make sure we take that with a grain of salt too, that a lot of these stocks are trading basically at record highs. So people talking about Tesla right here, tumbling 5.8%. You also have small cap benchmark, the Russell 2000, IWM, that dropped more than 1%, underperformed the major averages. These come after we had the producer price indexes that were basically matching what the economics were expecting. And what we are seeing in the fact that this week right now, a little bit of a hangover, they call it, holding on to most of those gains. So if anything, this week has just been more of a consolidation week. We'll see what happens if there's a lot of trading activity going in tomorrow's trading session. Specifically, what we do see also is Tesla that's cooling off a little bit. Now, remember, Tesla did have some big gains trading at 311. I mean, not that long ago, Tesla was trading in the mid 200s and even the low 200s for what we've seen. So let's get this back on a better chart. So the fact that Tesla is coming down a little bit here, that's not necessarily the worst thing cooling off. Now, why is because we're seeing the EV tax credits that could come under threat. Now, they fell about 5.7% here on Thursday, as of course we had the post-election gains cooling from a new report from Reuters that suggested that the EV tax credit could be cut under the incoming administration. And we see Thursday afternoon after this report, this could eliminate that tax credit, which is up to $7,500 tax credit for electric vehicle buyers as part of the broader tax reform. Specifically looking at this, I think Tesla and Elon Musk, they probably knew that this was coming. And even with going onto a Republican type of side of things, especially with Elon's support in the last few months of the election, he was probably anticipating for this to happen. So I don't think he's personally incredibly surprised. However, why I think this is still bullish for Tesla, even though we're seeing a reduction in their price right now, is because if he's buddies with the new administration, and we know Tesla is going to have a lot of attention, I think they're still going to do fairly well. What's going to put them on top is now that we're seeing these talks about the EV tax credits coming under threat, that's going to be less incentivized to buy electric vehicles. That means competitors. On top of tariffs, the Chinese EV vehicles are going to be lessly incentivized to bring those different types of vehicles into the United States. And that leaves Tesla really outcompeting and having a bigger hedge, even though they are already having a bigger hedge. I think that will isolate them even further, making it more difficult for some of the other EV companies to compete. What do you think about that statement? That's what I think is happening behind the scenes. What we are seeing, though, NVDA, another big stock that we do talk about a lot. NVIDIA, if we quickly check here, is trading at about 146 right now. Some of the big market movers and pieces of news for NVIDIA is due to report its fiscal third-year quarter results next Wednesday, and analysts are actually increasing the confidence, and they are boosting their price targets. We've seen right here from this financial group that we've seen positive ratings on NVIDIA, raising price targets to 180 from 160. We've seen this across the board, that NVIDIA is continuing to be incredibly bullish. We've seen the CEO come out and say that we've seen no slowing down in demand, that they can't keep up with the demand. So NVIDIA stock really is in a recent breakout. We know about them. Next quarter earnings being released this upcoming Wednesday. Everybody will have eyeballs on that, which can have a bigger impact on the broader AI industry since they are the leading competitor. So what do you think about Palantir making that move? Do we see Palantir holding above these 60s, or do you think it's going to join the market here with a little bit of a cool off, or do you think none of that's going to happen at all? Peace out. Take care. Hope you guys have a wonderful day and enjoy your weekend. Thank you guys so much for watching.